Hello everyone, I am Tasta, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the Goblins 3 event, in which the Merc, Lurk, and Durk is added to the game. So, this week brings 2 actually usable troops for once. Not only is Murk, Lurk, and Durk one of the better mana accumulators in the entire game, surprisingly, having auto extra turn into filling up your entire team with mana with double Wish Gem, but also we ended up getting a pretty strong dragon with a double convert and the ability to synergize really well with purple teams, particularly purple skull spam teams, which is decently popular because purple has a very high concentration of things that can end up doing skull spam. So we're going to be going in a little bit different order and going over both of these 2 first and the events associated to them, and then getting into all of the teams and then all the normal stuff throughout the week. So first things first, the Merc, Lurk, and Durk. This is surprisingly absurdly strong. They are starting the year off pretty well. So as far as what this troop does, it creates 2 Wish Gems. So a Wish Gem, when destroyed, will either give 1, 2, 3, or 4 of your allies 4 mana, or give all 4 of your allies full mana while also giving the entire enemy full mana. Overall, it just gives you a ton of mana, while having a small chance to also do the same for the enemy. It will generally benefit you more, assuming you can get an extra turn. Luckily, it has an auto extra turn as long as it's not frozen, so automatically 100% of the time gains an extra turn while creating 2 Wish Gems, so it does that every single time. But on top of that, it also gets to do one of the random following. Deal a bunch of true damage to the last 2 enemies, which not too bad, decent amount of damage, not the greatest in the world, but decent. Or give a bunch of life to all allies, again, not the greatest, but you know, it can keep you alive. You're getting it for free off of auto extra turn while still getting the Wish Gems. Or explode a bunch of brown gems, which of course synergizes directly into the fact that he has Wish Gems, having a 1 in 3 chance to super mana accumulate, not just because you're getting the Wish Gems on the board, but you're also just massive mana accumulating them immediately. Keep in mind, even if he doesn't trigger this 1 in 3, you can of course with his auto extra turn just have something else go and pop your 2 Wish Gems on your team, and then just keep the cycle going. It is a absurdly good mana accumulator, especially for a 13 mana cost. It might actually be the strongest Wish Gem mechanic troop in the entire game. If we go compare it to everything else with a Wish Gem mechanic, it comes pretty close to, I'm pretty sure, absolute best by like a mile. There are some mythics that are somewhat good for it, of course. Fairy Godmother being pretty noteworthy with a 50% chance to convert 1 every single turn, while also having an ability that does, honestly, something pretty similar to what he does, except you may notice a little bit of a disparity in mana cost. While she does use 3 mana, or, you know, has 3 mana, she does have a 22 mana cost, which could be a little bit harder to get off the ground, especially if you don't pop one of these and get unlucky over multiple turns. But he doesn't need to worry about some kind of random trait. He just needs to go get his mana, only 13, and get rolling from there. And having that auto explode, I don't believe she has the equivalence of that. No, she does not have the ability to auto pop the Wish Gems, so you will always need another troop to do it. Whereas 1 out of 3 times he will do it himself. You shouldn't depend on him doing it himself. You should always have at least one other option on your team that can end up doing it. However, sometimes he will. So that is a pretty nice benefit. The only other one that I guess comes somewhat close and is actually similar color is this thing, but its mana or its actual ability is pretty underwhelming. But it does get to create a Wish Gem every single turn, which gets rid of the RNG of having a % chance every single turn. But as long as this thing doesn't get silenced, you just cast that out and you are good to go. So let me check out show this real quick. Also, yeah, I still have a booster. If you guys wonder why it's popping down, I did PvP a little bit late yesterday, and yeah, the booster is still going. Anyways. So, yeah, let's go and mess with this thing real quick. So, Norbert's Turnip is also in the Soul Forge this week, as well as, honestly, everything single Goblin pretty much in drop table for the event key drop table. So, in this case, we are using it with the, of course, Norbert's Turnip, as you generally would with any kind of pure Goblin team. But we're doing it down the route of Flaming Ani. So Flaming Ani is a Goblin from Zaejin, so this is a 4x Zaejin team, as well as a 4x Goblin team, so anytime these restrictions come up, you could use this team for both of those 2 categories. But this also, of course, ends up incorporating the new guy, so as soon as we go and get him his mana, I should be able to get this off the ground. So, of course, he has his ability ready to go. You know, let's grab a little bit of extra mana just in case we need it. Probably won't. But as you saw right there, he did his, I believe, his double true damage there. But now he created 2 Wish Gems. He did not pop them himself, but of course you could just use something else on your team to end up doing so. And it looks like it gave all of our allies full mana and all the enemy team full mana. However, that's not going to matter because we are in such of a lead right now. I don't think they're going to get a single turn ever. So we'll just go cast his ability again. We get the double true damage poke. We'll pop all of them, get all of our mana. Even if we fed them full mana, it doesn't really matter because we're never ending our turn. And let's see, does it get the damage? He does. You get really lucky on the damage. Well, we'll just go kill him out then. Don't even need anything else. But yeah, it is nice. You know what? We're about to bring this PvP. Give me this team. We're bringing this PvP. Bringing this to Central. Let's go over here. But this thing is strong. Like, strong. Like, top 10 mana accumulator in game? Question mark strong? Like, they actually made this thing absurdly good. The interesting thing, too, haven't messed around with them too much yet, as, of course, he just came out. But, I'm curious to see what kind of things you can end up using them with, as far as high mana cost stuff in the future. Because, of course, it has pretty good synergy with Stellar, because you don't have to build him into a Goblin team. You build him into anything, and just get those Wish Gems off, feed a bunch of things that have a super high mana cost, and you're good to go. He's the most consistent way to do Wish Gems. Oh, yeah. There's one problem with the team setup I do have here. I have no anti-freeze. Yeah, there's one slight issue if you're not using Wand. The easiest way around this is to have Cleanse or Wander on your team, but, there's a factor I did not fully consider, though. Honestly, this team has enough extra turn that we could probably work around that. We just won't be able to use his ability as much as we potentially would have hoped to have, being able to do so. Which is kind of unfortunate because we're trying to show him on this team. But he's the main component that is currently frozen. But yeah, currently casting him is really bad unless he triggers his 1 in 3 chance to explode. Do we want to gamble that? Yeah, let's go for it. Let's see. Does he get it? No! Yeah, you gotta be careful with that because otherwise you'll just give the enemy infinite mana and yeah, it kind of goes crazy from there. Yeah, you would want to make sure you get that anti-freeze going. If you are going to be in a situation like this, as of course every Goblin team absolutely hates being frozen, but that's as easy as replacing your weapon out for Wand if you're not in a restriction that forces you into a Zaejin weapon or any other similar cleanse option that you want to go down for as far as route. Can we find a non-freeze team then? Let's see, let's go kill him out. But, oh, he got his explode! We didn't even need it! Look at that! Oh, nice. But, yeah, very strong troop. Highly advised messing around with him. Absurdly good mana accumulator. Pretty much the best Wish Gem mechanic in the entire game. Not pretty much, quite literally. I guess the other mythic is slightly competing with it, but it is way more accessible, that's for sure. And there are a lot of situations where you would use that due to its quicker start compared to it, which is probably its biggest benefit, just how quickly you end up getting it started. But yeah, if you want to go get it, it is in the shop underneath, underneath the weekly event. And yeah, definitely make sure to stock up on him. I already got a max and everything. And even, I think I even elite leveled him, because why not? He only gains durability from it, but just make sure he doesn't die. But overall, amazing troop, and one of the better ones we've gotten in quite a while. Better than, like, the last 10 mythics, pretty much. But anyways, so that's not the only thing we got. We got ourselves the Lunar New Year event. So it is the Year of the Snake. We do have a yellow event. Don't forget to be taking this every single day for the next 2 weeks. Basically, just go and take your battles. Doesn't matter which one you end up taking. Just make sure that every single day that you do your 3 battles, and ideally also spend 50 gems in order to get your 6 battles in, and this will allow you to get all the rewards being one of the holiday armor, if you didn't already get it from the previous years, the new troop that we'll be going over in a moment for 400, the pet, which you can also earn 1 copy of from doing the other weekly, which we'll go over in a moment, but it just gives additional stats to the troop. And if you do it 6 times, you'll get the initial one maxed, and then the golden one, which will cost 700 total there. And if you have some spare, going for the power orb. So, as far as this troop, this is also absurdly good. Not sure why they want to add 1 billion good troops today, but sure, I like it. I wish they would always add more good troops. But it feels like a rarity that we ever get like every single thing coming in as a good. I guess they just wanted to go heavy between the campaigns. As we do have a lot of events going on this week. I didn't even mention, we do have Vault event this weekend too. Like, everything's happening this week pretty much. They really, like, backloaded this month, that's for sure, as far as the starting month. But anyways, so this thing is really good in one particular team type, and that is a purple skull spam team. There are a lot of ways to end up doing this between Ossifer, Keeper of Souls, and the billion of other things that are purple that end up skull spamming. But there's a lot of things that goes for this. For one, it has purple link, so you're automatically going to be gaining more purple mana whenever you take purple. It has a 50% chance to create 3 purple gems when matching for an extra turn, and normally this kind of unpredictability would be bad. But the fact that there's 3 gems instead of a lot of things these days that only do like 1 or 2 or something similar, 3 is pretty solid. That is a decent amount. And while you are effectively only doing 1.5 per extra turn, ultimately, that still adds up to be a lot. And of course, it does stack. So if you have 2 on your team, 3 on your team, I don't think you'd ever go heavier than 2, but I guess it depends on the context. but has a lot of potential in that regard to create a lot of gems. Obviously, sometimes you might create 0, but you know, if you have 3 on your team, you might create 9, you never know. So as far as its ability, it has a double convert. It converts all red to purple, which gives you quite a bit of mana. One thing to keep in mind is you won't be able to use him with Yagway from the same kingdom, though the teams that you would build with him, you don't really need to be doing that. But you can't use him with Yagway because he also does a red to purple, actually purple to red. Well, I guess you could do it the other way around and kind of do like a mishmash. But actually, I guess you could do it with him. They kind of do the opposite of each other. This is red to purple, the other guy does purple to red. But anyways, he converts all red to purple, which of course feeds into himself and the billion other purple troops that are probably on your team in any context that you are using him. But then also converts all yellow gems to skulls. So of course you end up getting skull spam there. But that's not all it does. One of the other reasons why it's so good on a heavy purple team is it also enchants all purple allies. So you start getting 2 mana per turn and gives them a bunch of life and magic if that wasn't already enough, which is just overall so good. I wish it was also attack. That'd be amazing. But still, a bunch of life and magic. Unfortunately, magic being pretty low, but, you know, magic to keep them alive. I mean, HP to keep them alive if you're creating a bunch of skulls can help tank, especially if your first slot is something that can end up tanking a little bit better. As far as from the kingdom itself, that would probably be the mythic dragon that has that 70% skull reduction, but in other contexts could be any purple tank that you would end up using in like a 4 times kind of purple team. But yeah, this has a lot of potential going on in the future, particularly with Mystic teams. Base teams, probably not as much, but in Shentang and Mystic are probably the 2 biggest categories, as well as just being used very heavily in 4 times purple teams. Has a lot of potential going forward, so definitely make sure to go and get this thing. And of course, as we mentioned, even though you can mass buy this pet here, keep in mind you can also get 1 copy through the current weekly. So we have one of these little weekly progress things. You just defeat red enemies anywhere. It's generally just doing the dailies and everything will get this done pretty much automatically, but at the end you will end up getting yourself one of the pet as well. And I believe this is the one you need to end up going and getting it all the way to max as well. So definitely make sure to go and pick it up simply just by killing some red enemies throughout the week, as you'll pretty much naturally do by doing almost anything. Anyway, so let's go get over to all the teams and then go over everything else that we have going on, because gosh, this is a packed week. So first things first, we kind of already went over this team, but there are a lot of ways to build them, but I figured we show it in a 4 times Goblin team, as this works for 4 times Goblin, 4 times Zaejin, for any kind of restriction where you need to do that in the future. Keep in mind, it's also a restriction for Underspire this week, so technically you can also run it for Underspire, though we do show a different team for Underspire, a slightly different one. But yeah, Murk, Lurk, and Durk. Absolutely amazing mana accumulator. You're going to be seeing this a ton in the future. It is so good and so cheap. It is only an epic, and it's among one of the best mana accumulators in the game, outpacing even the mythics that do the same mechanic and the legends that do the same mechanic. His traits leave a little bit to be desired, but his ability is absurdly good, both from a mana accumulation perspective, but honestly, even from a support perspective. Has a little bit of damage, has a little bit of life gain, has that mana accumulation straight into your wish gem. Overall, really amazing. Just make sure he doesn't get freeze, or you have an anti-freeze to go with him, either with wand or however you want to do it. So, we got a Doom event this week for green. You are forced to basically have to use the Doom Buckler in order to get your double points whenever you kill the Doom. You technically don't have to do it on every single battle, only on Doom fights. However, to make sure you don't accidentally forget to put it back on your team, do just keep it on your team the entire time is probably most advised. Keep in mind, it does not need to be upgraded to get your points. It simply just has to be on your team, and regardless if it dies or anything, you'll still get the points. It simply just has to be starting on your battle. So just put it in the back, or just tank with it in first slot, doesn't really matter. In this case, we're using a Box Rider Leprechaun team to feed whatever your biggest damage source is. Of course, if you don't have Stellarix, replace it with the next best green damage you have. Worst comes to worst, even so, this a simple Truffle would do the job there. With that being said, as far as the low rarity team, we end up pretty much going all in on that kind of motion, in that we are just going a double Truffle and just feeding it immediately with Leprechaun. We're using our hero to tank. You could go for something even tankier and go like Elementals or something. However, I did go Mech in case there is Submerge, as this will automatically counter your Submerge every time you take extra turn. It will remove all Submerge from the opposing team. And then we're just using the cheap Truffle they end up getting just from the Amethyrex faction. And you can just throw some shards there, end up getting double of him really quickly, and just go use that to go and clear out the event. Spoilers, a lot of teams this week end up using Truffle. If in doubt of a damage source to use for anything, just use Truffle this week for any kind of green-related restriction. With that being said, the faction event is a green-brown for the Amethyrex faction tomorrow on Tuesday. As far as the teams, we're just using a pretty standard Skier Shield into Rowan, and just using Leprechaun to go get our mana rolling. For the slightly higher team, we're using a Box Strider Leprechaun to feed whatever our best damage sources are. In this case, we're just doing a Hiking Iron Good Catheric, so you can put any 2 best damage sources you have in between. And as far as a pure faction, we have a nice diverse team of 4 Truffle because he's so good that there isn't really anything else that you need to really put there other than just spamming himself until you win. I do keep in mind on a team like this, you normally want to wait until 2 or 3 of the Truffles have full mana so that they can loop their mana just a little bit better. You shouldn't cast it the second you have 1 to full mana. You should wait at least bare minimum to 2, waiting for at least 3 or even 4 if you can, just to make sure they can keep their loop going the entire time once you do end up getting it. As far as the Thief class is concerned, we are simply just feeding a bunch of red mana into the Dawnbringer. You can also use Summer's Fury if you happen to not have Dawnbringer, but any red weapon that can hit all enemies will get the job done. We're just using this for its mana link to get all the mana going as far as at the start of fight, and just going and spamming our weapon until we end up winning. As far as Underspire, this is restricted to Zaejin, including your weapon. So for this first team here, we have a High King Iron Gut Devourer team, and just using Truffle to kind of offset it for a little bit of damage and mana accumulation for the few things that can't be devoured here, as well as Flaming Ani for the mana accumulation as well as backup resummon. With insta-kill this week, it should be pretty easy to take out most things except for the Doom Fight, but even then you can just offset it with one other damage source and pretty much be good to go. You could even replace Truffle for anything you want if you just want to deal with the Doom a little bit better, or even go double High King Iron Gut if you happen to have access to a second High King Iron Gut to end up putting there. Can end up being really nice as well. And even if you find a Doom that's immune or other things that are immune, you can kind of brute force it just by spamming Turnip until it's dead. As far as the Underspire is concerned, for the lower rarity range, we are going quite similarly into a double Truffle team, except this time using the Norbert's Turnip in order to go feed it mana, and the Norben Brothers mostly just to absorb all the red. But if you have something better that can absorb the red, like the Mythic, it would be more favorable, though this will get the job done if you don't have the higher rarity options. As far as the yellow event, of course, this week we have to go use a yellow team for the Lunar New Year event that will be going for the next 2 weeks. Do not forget to be doing it every single day in order to maximize on your rewards. For this team here, we have a Wand of Stars, Stellarix, and the double Pharaoh Caffrey, basically a pretty standard mass mana accumulation team into feeding into whatever your best damage source is, in this case a Stellarix. Keep in mind, of course, you can end up running down the Talk Shaka route, and if you need something way cheaper, instead of double that, you can also go double Ember Claw if you end up getting that or have gotten into drop tables. You can simply go a double Ember Claw as well. Much cheaper than the other 2 options, as this is only a legend rather than a mythic. And then simply downgrade your damage source to whatever your best yellow is. If you don't have Stellarix, you go yellow Celestial Dragon, any yellow dragon that does a bunch of damage to all enemies, or really just any enemy that, or any troop that can do a bunch of damage to all enemies, and just replace that there and offset to whatever your next best mana accumulation option is. If you need something super cheap from your guild seals, you can end up getting a bunch of finesse, and then just go triple finesse into a Wand of Stars, which you can use to dispel or give a bunch of bless to your own team. But the most important thing here is to go Stormcaller, so you have Perpetual Yellow Storm. This ends up making his ability go very strong. He ends up, if there's a storm, giving 6 mana to all other allies, and of course it's a yellow storm, so they'll get their mana pretty quickly. Every time you take an extra turn, the entire team is gaining 12 additional stats, including your hero. But most notably the Finesses, which have a double hit as well, and they have a bunch of tankiness, so they should work out really, really well. And you just keep spamming them. Once you have 2 of them to full mana, as long as you don't get mana drain, they will perpetually just keep casting every single turn. The biggest downside is you do have to give up your turn every single time. However, the upside is as long as they don't have mana drain, every single turn you'll be able to cast them. And you can just do that over and over and over again until you end up winning out the fight. So, as far as other events that we have going on this week, actually, let's start with Soulforge. So, Soulforge is, I would say it's more weapon heavy this time around. You may have noticed me mentioning Norbert's Turnip a couple times here, and you should not leave this week without it. It is among one of the strongest weapons in the entire game. On paper, it kind of just looks like a standard, mass mana accumulation weapon for just simply goblins. But the main thing that makes it really strong is it gains an extra turn on one of its affixes, one of the +9 buffs. I think is the very last one it ends up getting. This is absurdly strong. Anything that ever gets this, like Rope Dart and any of the few other ones for hero weapons that have this, are all pretty good. And Norbert's Turnip is no exception to this. Ends up feeding a bunch of green and red to all goblins, with green being particularly useful. And you just mass mana accumulate with this. Even if you're not using a pure goblin team, there are a lot of situations where this is so good due to the auto extra turn. Though, of course, ideally you are using 3 or 4 goblins onto your team. So overall, amazing weapon, and you should not leave this week without it, as I wouldn't say every goblin team ends up needing it, but a lot of goblin teams that aren't running something like Wand of Stars or something similar, you're going to be running Norbert's Turnip. It's like the 80% of the time, like the weapon you're going for if you're doing a 3-4 times goblin team. We're trying to build like a pure goblin team of any kind ever, so highly advise getting it, as it's great damage, great extra turn potential, and fits really well into the synergy of the team. Beyond that, as far as the troops that are available, I would say Megavore is probably the biggest thing on PC Mobile. Has its insta-kill, very rarely used, but is still the best armor tier in the entire game. Being able to eliminate all armor from all enemies while dealing a decent amount of damage to one of them. And this is the best way to 4 times armor tier in the entire game, other than maybe rope dart spamming and using the hero weapon of rope dart to try to cast that 4 times in order to go eliminate all enemy armor. That's a lot more loopable, whereas this guy auto-engages turn. But it's just a lot easier to do. You have to give up your turn, but you only have to cast him once for 24 mana, and then you're good to go. And occasionally he'll get a free kill, and even has Impervious to go with it. So overall, not too bad. Very situational in the current state of the game, but still a decent option. Fairy Godmother is also in Soulforge this week. However, as we just mentioned, the troop that you can get for Glory this week is basically this, but stronger. So I guess this troop is just obsolete now. There might be some rare circumstances where you kind of still end up using it. But for the most part, I am pretty sure this is just an obsolete version of Lurk, Durk, and whatever his other name was. The new Goblin that came out today. She's basically just a weaker version of that. So I don't really see a reason why you're going to need this in the future. With that being said, and we might as well tangent to... Ooh, tribute ready. You might as well tangent to the event keys. Yes, open them. Open them. Open every last one of them. Goblins are one of the strongest types in the entire game. And this week is basically get all the Goblins weeks. So as far as what is not in drop table, so you know what you shouldn't be trying to spam for if you feel like you're just getting really dry. But no, it's actually just not in drop table. These include the faction troops from the Amethyrex. All those are from the portals from Amethyrex. This also includes the Fool. This is in the Vault Key drop table. Also, how on earth have I gotten 63 of these things? And that's it. This is 2. So all of the faction troops and the Fool. Everything else that you see here is indeed in the event key drop table. So what are you looking for? All of it. Literally all of it. Pretty much. Iron Gut is the best Devourer in the entire game while having auto extra turn. After one Devourer in any game mode, he will effectively have over 100 attack, giving him a 100% Devour rate as long as they're not immune. And he has auto extra turn, so you keep spamming it into a bunch of mana accumulation. Really, really good. And in many game modes, he actually has over 100 attack to begin with, most notably Underspire, or Underworld, I mean. So really great for that. Flaming Ani, just a great overall mana accumulator. We'll be able to summon a full team of goblins, which is basically just like starting a fresh team over again. As 3 random goblins is a pretty solid team, almost always, as almost all goblins are good due to their auto extra turns that pretty much every single one of them has, including this. And he also gets to create some burn gems to go burn the enemy. And Fairy Godmother, while a weaker version of the troop that came out today, is still like not horrible. It's probably weaker than what we just got, but you know, it's still an alternative to it. Covers different colors. There's some niche situations where you would still end up using it over the new troop. But yeah, there's pretty much no wrong options here. Almost every single thing here, due to its auto extra turn nature, is really good. Like, this is one of the better silencers in the game because it's auto extra turn into it while having mana accumulation. This thing, having Impervious, makes it one of the only goblins, if not the only goblin, that actually has Impervious. There are a few others that have immune to freeze, but this is really good because in first slot, just to negate Entangle, having one extra thing to negate out freeze can be pretty helpful, as of course goblins are very, very hard countered by freeze. So having a mechanic like that can be decent from time to time. But overall, yes, I would say this is a great week to open event keys, as honestly, anything that you're getting is going to be pretty solid. So if you want to try for your Iron Guy if you didn't already get it, or just keep going until you get at least one mythic, hopefully getting Flaming Ani or King Iron Gut, it is definitely a great week to end up doing so. And worst comes to worst, you're going to get this guy maxed out, though you could easily do that with the Glory, the Merc, Lurk, and Durk, as Glory is much more accessible. Do keep in mind, if you are looking for Truffle, he is not an event key drop table. You do have to go and throw shards for that. And whenever I say that, I mean if you go to the middle here, click on Kristar so you get to Underworld. You get him from the Amethyrex thing over here. You just go to this portal, go and open a bunch of them, and hope that you get to the legend. Do we get a first try? No. Do we get a second try? Come on, show it, come on. Come on, you know you want to. Show me the Truffle. Show me the Truffle. Show me the Truffle. How many times are we going to go without the Truffle? So the Truffle is a... wrong thing. The Truffle is a 2.52% chance. And we are not getting it. There we are. There he is. The double Truffle. So we showed so many teams with him. The double Truffle. But yep, there's the double Truffle. But yeah, he's a 2.52% chance there. So highly advise doing it. Great troop. You can do that whenever, though. Not just this week. But very useful for a lot of game modes this week. So great week to go and pick him up if you haven't already gotten your double Truffle ready to go. So, other things throughout the week. This Tuesday, as we mentioned, we have the faction event for Amethrax, which we just went over right there. That green-brown faction that we just opened the chest from. Though, of course, you could do that anytime. You don't have to do that only on that day. Wednesday, we have our Zaejin pet coming in. If you don't already have that max, just for a little bit extra bonus. Thursday, we have ourselves the Thief class. Generally, overall, this class tends to only be used in 4 times Goblin teams. So it is a pretty good class. It's just you tend to only really bring it out for really heavy Goblin-related teams. And then on Friday, we have ourselves Vault Event Weekend. So great time to be going and grinding everything up. Actually, I think I almost went through all my Vault keys the other Monday. Still have a few that we need to go through before we get to the next Vault Event Weekend. But yeah, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, great time to be grinding pretty much anything. Either Quick Kill, Explore, PvP, whatever else you want to be killing in order to get a ton of Gnomes, which will have a higher rate of Vault keys, as well as being able to get Verse Gnomes at a higher rate, and getting all those Palooza, so you can earn even more various gems, Dragonite, and other various loot in the game. So great time to be farming, as there's already a billion of other events to be synergizing it with. And of course, as far as other events, don't forget that you need to be keeping up with the daily of this for the next 2 weeks for the Lunar New Year event, where it's a yellow restriction, and just keep going through these battles every single time with a pure yellow team of choice. Beyond that, as far as the guild-related event, it is pretty standard Tower of Doom, where you lay back all the better rooms to your guild, the fireballs, the heroisms, the unlocks, or anything else you want to be doing, as you only want to be doing the rooms that are actually good, and it is the exact same for your entire guild, so make sure to communicate with your guild. It's not the same across all guilds, but simply within your own guild, so do be communicating with them to figure out where all the better rooms are. But beyond that, it plays the same as per usual. It's 500 gems to go and get the shield, and it's highly advised getting it this way rather than any other way. Also highly advised just doing it in general, because you get a lot of loot along the way, and you don't need to get the shield down the line. Unfortunately, the shield itself is pretty underwhelming. You're pretty much just putting it in the back of your team in order to do nothing, or in the front of your team and just never cast it in order to tank. You don't actually need to be casting it much. I guess if you're using a Rowan build with it, you kind of could, but for the most part, there are plenty of better other damage sources that you should probably be using, especially at the later end, where Rowan tends to fall off pretty hard. So for the most part, this is basically just a cosmetic shield that you're either using to tank with in first slot, or putting in your last slot so it just gets out of the way from your actual triple real team, and just use it on your team just to get the double points, as is required. Every time you end up using it is double score. You don't need to upgrade it, but having it on your team is double score whenever you go and take out the Doom. You technically don't need it for these room fights, but highly advises keeping it on just so you don't forget to go turn it on for when you do take on the Doom. Beyond that, is there anything else to really mention? I think that might be all of the things already, which means let's go do that team one more time. Because gosh, this thing is fun. I love this thing so much. On stream tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we do every Monday, we need to mess with this. We need to go mess with like every single thing, Murk, Lurk, and Durk, because this is such a good troop. It is so good. Also, I should probably be running Wand here, realistically. There's gonna be so many teams in PvP running Freeze. No, they did it again. No. You know what? I'm about to go get that Wand. I'm retreating right now. Give me that Wand. I've had enough of this. There we go. Let me go get Wand. Oh, nice. Another standard Goblin team. So we get to do Goblin versus Goblin. Give me that Wand already. I've had enough of this. So he's using pretty standard Thief Goblin team. He's using the Turnip, as you generally do with most Goblin teams. He's running Truffle, which is a great damage source in general for Goblins. String Fiddler for that silence and extra mana accumulation. And the Fundingus, which ends up giving a ton of mana accumulation, as well as a backup resummon, though we're using Flaming Ani for the same similar purpose. A little bit of a higher mana cost, but generally a little bit better overall. This thing's biggest benefit is that it's way easier to obtain, whereas this thing is, of course, a mythic, but this is basically the non-mythic alternative to Flaming Ani. So if you ever need like a one-to-one alternative, Fundingus is generally the way you go. Though if you have Flaming Ani, normally you run Flaming Ani instead. Okay, let's hope we can get things rolling right off the bat, and we should be able to here. We got our backup Wand, though ironically right on the battle where we don't actually need Wand. Go figure. The time we switch in Wand is the exact time we actually don't need Wand anymore, but oh well. We'll still roll with it, of course. Unfortunately, we did miss the Wish Gems there. We need to get our Flaming Ani rolling, and as soon as we do, we should be good to go, as long as it doesn't miss. And I believe we are now functioning. So we go for a little bit of this, a little bit of that, get our Truffles in there, go get all those Wish Gems popped. Might as well throw you since you're the Trooper testing. Auto extra turn, which is amazing. Go and auto pop all those, get full mana. And you know what? You're going to do true damage, aren't you? Yep, you did. Oh gosh, I love this thing. But, yeah, you can use this with anything too. Like anything. Like Wish Gems just feed full mana to anything in the game. You have 18 mana cost, you get to full. You have 22, you get to full. You're using like Takshaka, 26 mana, you get to full. You're using like a Stellarix, you get to full. Use that one trip that has like 50 mana cost for some reason, you get it to full. But yeah, this thing has so much potential. It's weird to see wish gems being like such a viable mechanic now, as it was one of those things that was kind of always there. It's like, yeah, you would kind of use it occasionally. You just kind of need the right team for it. But now you could just use it with whatever. Like every team's a right team if you just put Merc, Lurk, and Durk on a team. Of course, there are still other better alternative manas for some situations. Like there are still a lot of situations where obviously you're running still double Tuck Shaka, double Pharaoh. There's still a lot of situations where that is still better. There's still situations where just a single Leprechaun to get your team rolling is going to be better. But this is an interesting alternative now for whenever you have a super high mana cost team and you just kind of need to get it rolling. So really interesting to see the implications of this troop going forward, as it is one of the strongest ones that I can recall in the last like year. Like even comparing it to like any mythic, any immortal, anything. This is like probably one of the strongest troops they had in the last year or so. Really cool. And if you guys have any team suggestions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. And yeah, I think we'll end it here then. Hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week. We will be on, as we mentioned, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And yeah, we'll definitely mess around with them. Honestly, half the stream I'm pretty much just going to be messing around with them. Aside from dailies and all the normal stuff, we're just going to mess around, see what we could do. Try them with a bunch of different things and just see what works, what doesn't, and go from there. But anyways, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful Lunar New Year, a wonderful week. And I will catch you guys later. Goodbye, everyone. And thanks for watching.